Artasya nishchayo drushto vicharena hi toktitaha nasnanena nadanena prāṇāyamas va. Artasya, of the reality, nishchayo, conviction, drishtaha, is seen, vicharena, by inquiry, hitoktitaha, along the lines of the salutary reasoning of the wise, not, snanena, by sacred baths, not, danena, by giving charity, prāṇāyamas va, not even by hundreds of prāṇāyamas. The conviction of the truth proceeds from investigation of the salutary counsel of the wise, not by bathing in sacred waters, nor by charity, nor by hundreds of prāṇāyamas. Namaste. So, this verse is wonderful. Artasya nishchayo, the conviction of the reality. Why does reality require a conviction? Because in our ordinary state we are conditioned. We are covered by ignorance. We are seeing an illusion, not the reality. An illusion projected by our own mind onto our consciousness. This is called adhyasa, superimposition. So, in order to rise above this conditioning requires a conviction, a strong belief in the actual truth. How is this conviction developed? Well, here it says vicharena, by vichara, by investigation. What kind of investigation? Hitoktiktaha, along the lines of the salutary reasoning of the wise. In other words, it is not a completely independent investigation, but rather it is an investigation into how to verify what is stated in Shastra. That's the words of the wise. So one who takes at face value the words of the wise and then investigates in order to prove them, to confirm them or validate them in his own experience. This is vichara. Now the commentary defines vichara as a mental operation which conduces to the conviction of the actual nature of an object. In other words, in our ordinary state of being, we don't have an actual view of the reality of or whatever objects we see. For one thing, we think that they are independent, that they have no cause and no destination. For another thing, we assume that they're permanent, when actually they're simply transient. And there's so many more aspects. By name and form, we create objects where there are no objects. We say, this is my country, and then I draw a line in the sand, and that is your country. And then we fight over it. See, all this nonsense is going on over these mental projections that overlay the actual reality with a phony reality. That's why the example of the rope and snake is so salient here. The rope is the reality. The snake is something projected onto it, like a picture in a movie theater. And we believe the projection. We are biased to believe the projection because it comes from our own minds. So to rise above this, to see the actual truth demands a certain amount of faith, or better than the word faith is confidence in the instructions given in the scriptures. So how do we develop that confidence? Well, the investigation and the confidence go hand in hand. If we investigate along the lines of reasoning of the salutary counsel of the wise, beautiful expression, we come to see that it's correct. If we can find one example, we can find innumerable more along the same lines, that the material world is temporary, it's conditioned or dependent. Everything that we experience is dependent on something else, some set of causes that may be within our scope of observation, or they may be beyond it. Doesn't matter. Still, everything we experience, including the world itself, is a production, a result, not a cause. Of course, something that is a result can become the cause of something else and so on. But the whole notion of cause and effect is invalidated by Advaita. The concept of Advaita means there's no difference. There's no difference between the cause and the effect. They are one thing, like a stick that has two ends. We call one the cause and the other the effect because they come sequentially in time. But it actually doesn't mean anything in the view of eternity. So when we get beyond time and space, cause and effect, and birth and death, this is the reality. This is the Brahman. This is what we can always count on because it never changes. So this is the process, and this is how we become enlightened from this investigation, like a scientist going into it, making experiments, and finding out what is the real truth. Apart from our conditioning that is all aligned to view things in a certain way. Now, this requires a certain amount of courage because you have to go against the prevailing view of basically the whole human society. How are you going to do that? Well, you need to have the conviction, the firm belief that the words in the scripture are more correct than what we see or hear through our ordinary senses. And this requires some gumption, some courage. That's why the sadhus who realize Advaita are called heroic. They have to have this heroic mood that I don't care what everybody else in the world says or thinks or does. I'm going to follow the instructions in the Shastra and see what happens. And of course, what happens is you cognize non-duality. But that is pursuant to the investigation of the truths of the words in the Shastra. That's why we're using mathematical reasoning in our series, One Self, that proves the logical consistency and perfection of the Advaita philosophy. The idea is, if a supercomputer can verify Advaita as being 100% logical, that increases our confidence in it. That shows us, oh, this is actually perfect by every most advanced means of analysis in the Western culture and science. So if science can prove it true, then it's easier for us to take the steps needed to experience it for ourselves. Because it's radical. It's outside of most people's experience. We know this. That's why we keep repeating, pounding again and again on the same basic truths, which are the material phenomena are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self. Anything that is an object of perception cannot be the truth. Why? Because the truth is the subject, the awareness of the self.